So here on this Tobacco University video, we're going to be investigating different types of evidence and how we may go about classifying them. So when we're looking at two main categories for evidence, it's important to know what category the evidence you're collecting falls into. For example, whether it's a direct or testimonial, whether it's circumstantial, such as a physical piece of evidence. So the main broad classification of evidence that may be collected. Now, direct or testimonial evidence includes first-hand observations, such as testimonies from eyewitness accounts, written statements, confessions, or video cameras. Testimonies may sound convincing, but need to be cross-examined. So even if we get those shortly after a crime has been committed, keep in mind, because it is classified as this direct evidence or testimonial evidence, we need to back that up with other supporting data. Now, circumstantial or physical evidence, this is indirect evidence that can be used to imply a fact but does not directly prove it. It refers to any evidence that would be present at the crime scene but also includes items found in the suspect's possession. So just because it wasn't found directly at the crime scene, it may be necessary to investigate and use that because it may show or tell a better story to be able to determine the full idea of what had happened at the crime scene. We also have different types of evidence, so with these different types, we're looking at what are some examples of circumstantial or physical evidence that could be collected at a crime scene. So be thinking about these different types of physical evidence. Again, something as simple as a trash can here, all sorts of DNA, fingerprints, hair, all sorts of things can be collected. Here's some evidence examples. So here we have blood, hair, fiber, soil, glass, tire marks, paint chips, explosive, tool marks, firearms, ballistics, shell casings, pollen, DNA. These are just some evidence examples that can all be very important to a crime scene. Now, if we look here, how could these types of evidence be classified further? So if we have all these different types, these fingerprints, tool marks, blood, soil, glass, tire marks, how could we go about classifying these? So again, be thinking about these are things that could be collected at a crime scene. How do we potentially classify them? Well, looking at here is just some examples of some broad forms of classification. We get that circumstantial or physical evidence and detailed classifications. Well, we have biological evidence that can include body fluids, hair, natural fibers, plant parts, and DNA. Then we have some physical components that could be like bullets or casings or artificial fibers or tool marks. And then we get into trace evidence. And this refers to physical evidence that's found in small but measurable quantities. It's up to the investigator to not only identify what to look for, but to also find them and collect them in a way that preserves them so they can be used and entered as evidence for a crime scene.